I've been sitting here for the past few minutes trying to figure out what I want to say about this album, and I'm not entirely sure if this is actually going to be a video about this album or a more general video about subgenres. Let's find out. Grab your favorite pair of headphones and let's dig into this. For today's Headphone Hideaway, I want to talk about the 2006 release from the Blood Brothers, Young Machetes. For those of you unfamiliar with the Blood Brothers, they were a post-hardcore, here we go, the subgenres already, I'm going to get into it, but before I get distracted, they were a I hate even saying it out loud because let me just get that. I don't think the Blood Brothers were a post-hardcore band. I think they were more of a punk band than anything else, but we're going to get into it. But let me get through this fucking introduction. So the Blood Brothers were a band, regardless of genre, from Seattle, Washington. They had a good decade or so run, put out some really fucking killer albums. This was their fifth album. It was their final album, their swan song, if you will. And it's a fucking fantastic, chaotic motherfucker of an album. It's from front to back, just energy off the charts, attitude off the charts, and I fucking love hearing this album. As soon as you put this fucking thing on, it's just like, oh, what the fuck? I want to fucking mosh. I want to fucking dance. I don't know if anything has ever made me want to fucking mosh and simultaneously dance at the same time as this band and this album have. For some people, moshing is dancing. But let's get back to this band and this album before I go into my subgenre tantrum. The thing that's really cool about the Blood Brothers is just how fucking dynamic they are, from all of the styles of music that they incorporate to having the multiple vocalists that have dynamically drastic vocal ranges and things that they do. They really balance everything out in this way that is super fun, super dense, a lot to dig into, but with these like quick, no bullshit, almost pop driven punk slash post-hardcore slash screamo slash noise rock slash whatever fucking subgenre you want to put it on. Getting into the subgenre thing, I don't know if this band being labeled as a post-hardcore band was a good thing or a bad thing for the band. Granted, they did really, really well.
They make a tremendous amount of noise. Their fourth and latest album is called Crimes, with the song Trash Flavor Trash. Blood Brothers.
But it always blew my mind, the bands that this band came up around and the people that listened to this band, the other bands that they listened to. For lack of a better term, the MySpace era. You had Under Oath, The Used, maybe Census Fail, My Chemical Romance to some degree, Thursday, AFI. All of these bands were kind of lumped in the same thing, but all of those bands sound completely fucking different from each other. And this band was somehow in the mix. And I always felt that this band was so much more punk rock, so much more noise rock than screamo or post-hardcore. I just think it was a byproduct of the time. Everybody that I knew who listened to this band when they were active, it was like kind of like Blood Brothers was like the weird band that they listened to. I first heard these guys pretty early on. I had a friend of mine who was super into punk rock and he loved these dudes. So I guess that's kind of why I always associated the Blood Brothers with punk rock, and I always viewed them as a punk rock band. But, as time moved on and they started touring a lot more and releasing more albums, I found that the other people that I knew who this band was and listened to them, they weren't like fans of punk necessarily. I mean, maybe they listened to AFI or like My Chemical Romance, but that's maybe about as punk rock as it got for some of the people. They were a lot more into, I don't know, like kind of The Used or Under Oath or fucking whatever. And it's so like weird, like looking back and being like, oh, was the Blood Brothers a post-hardcore band? I still don't think they were, but that's who they were looped in with. And then it gets even weirder when you think about like some of the bigger tours that this band was on. Like they toured with Coheed and Cambria and Me Without You and Against Me. And like, those are all good bands. Those are all great tours to be on. But like, it doesn't make sense in a weird way. I mean, it's always fun to be the weird band out on a tour, but I wonder, did it help this band or did it just confuse people? Because I feel like the people that I think would really appreciate this band are people that were like more into like the weird experimental noisy stuff and not so much your Coheed and Cambria or your Me Without You fans. I'm thinking like, more like Melvins or The Locust. And, at the time I was listening to all that stuff and that's what really made this band make sense to me. And it just always fucking confused me that they were like seemingly operating in a completely different circle. Granted, this band has ties to The Locust through various other musical projects that people in this band have been in. This isn't a fucking documentary on the Blood Brothers. If you want to know more about all that, you could fucking do the research yourself. But, I think that it's just super interesting looking back now, over 10 years. This album is fucking, 14 years old now? Jesus Christ. And at the time, I didn't have hindsight. And now, hindsight is 2020. In 2020, I refuse to apologize for that corny joke. It seems kind of strange to me the way that this band operated and how the band's, where their path to success took them, because I don't want to take anything away from this band. They were very successful, like I already said, probably about as successful as a band making this kind of fucking chaos could be at that time. And maybe that was part of the reason they, took the paths that they did in terms of the bands that they toured with and how they built their fan base. Back to this album. So if you've never listened to this band at all, I do think that this is a really, really good starting point. It has some of their funnest songwriting, some of the most dynamic stuff that they ever did as a band. As they evolved, they got better and better at crafting these songs that, they never compromised the sound of the band. Like you can listen to their earliest material and listen to this and it sounds like the same band. This is just more controlled, more focused, more to the point, and just very, very matured for something as probably unapologetically adolescent and chaotic and just fuck you as this is. It is also very matured and like controlled. So yeah, I think that's all I'm really going to say about this. I have a lot more thoughts going on in my head about like this whole like post-hardcore thing and genres and what do genres mean, because like even if you think about like how post-hardcore originated, it was like with like Husker Du and Minutemen and Fugazi and Jawbox and shit like that. And I think that maybe this band kind of has more of the spirit of those bands than some of the 2000s post-hardcore bands. I think Guy from Fugazi actually produced this album or co-produced it. Is there a liner note somewhere on here? Of course there isn't. Maybe in the book. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Guy from Fugazi co-produced this or produced it. Anyways, fact check me on that if you want. The people in this band have a ton of ties to a ton of other cool people in all different crazy cool pockets of underground music. There's been some really great side projects that have come out as a result of the people in this band. And yeah, I would say if you are someone who maybe assumed the Blood Brothers were another one of those MySpace era post-hardcore screamo bands, but you're a fan of stuff like The Locust or maybe like Mike Patton-esque Ipecac Records stuff, any of that sort of like chaotic sort of stuff, give it a shot. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. And even now, like, I listened to this album a little bit earlier today, and I probably hadn't listened to it in a couple years. It still gives me the same fucking jolt of energy that it gave me fucking 14 years ago when I heard it for the first time. So I feel like this album 100% holds up. Give it a shot, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I'll be back again next week with another recommendation. I hope everyone's doing well. Take care of yourselves. Peace out.